Buying the wrong home in Atlanta can cost you tens of thousands of dollars, and most buyers relocating here do not realize what they are walking into until it is too late. In this video, I'm going to take you through the 6 types of homes in Atlanta that you need to be seriously cautious about before you buy. We will talk about the hidden costs that do not show up in the listing price, the problems that look perfectly fine on a walkthrough but are anything but, the things that inspectors flag, and the things that sometimes get missed until after you have already closed. I'm Tim Trevathan, a local realtor here in North Metro Atlanta, and my team and I have helped families from all over the country buy and sell in this market, and I have seen firsthand what happens when buyers do not know what to look for. Before I get into the 6 types, I want to explain why Atlanta specifically has more of these hidden traps than buyers coming from out of state typically expect. There are 4 things you need to understand about the market. First, the water. The Chattahoochee River runs along the western edge of the North Metro corridor through Roswell, Sandy Springs, and along the border of Gwinnett and North Fulton. There are also dozens of creek systems feeding into that river basin. Big Creek near Alpharetta, Peachtree Creek, Nancy Creek, and alongside those waterways, you have FEMA designated flood zones that show up in neighborhoods buyers are actively searching in. Second, the soil. The entire region sits on Georgia red clay. That clay expands significantly when it absorbs water. Then it contracts and pulls away from foundations when it dries out. Every wet spring and every dry summer in North Atlanta puts that cycle to work, directly against every foundation in this market. Third, the rainfall. Metro Atlanta receives around 50 inches of rain per year. That is well above the national average, and it does not arrive gently. It comes in thunderstorms, in bursts, and systems that dump several inches in a single afternoon. Fourth, the growth. Gwinnett County, North Fulton, and South Forsyth have seen some of the fastest residential development in the Southeast over the last 2 decades. That growth means homes at every price point, built across multiple eras with very different standards of construction and very different levels of maintenance behind them. Understanding those 4 things is what lets you walk into any property in this market and know what you're actually looking at. So let's start with the one that surprises out-of-state buyers the most. House type number 1, flood zone properties. FEMA designated flood zones. Along the Chattahoochee River corridor through Roswell, Sandy Springs, and into areas of North Fulton, there are properties sitting inside special flood hazard areas. The same is true along Big Creek near Alpharetta and along creek corridors throughout Gwinnett County. These are properties where your lender will require flood insurance as a condition of the loan, not optional, required, and that could cost you several $100s a year. And think about that from a standpoint of a 30-year fixed loan during that time of ownership. So here is what that means for your cost of ownership. As of 2025, the national average annual cost of an NFIP flood insurance policy is $925 per year. Private flood insurance tends to run higher. For properties in designated high-risk zones in Atlanta Metro, you're looking at costs that get added directly on top of your mortgage. And here is the part buyers miss most. A flood zone property can also appraise lower. That creates financing complications mid-transaction. It also reduces your future buyer pool when you go to sell because the insurance cost becomes a factor for the next buyers too. So what do you look for in a walkthrough? Check the elevation of the property relative to the nearest waterway or creek. A home can be horizontally inside a flood zone on the FEMA map, but vertically elevated above the base flood elevation. That distinction matters enormously, and you can prove it with elevation certificates. Also check the basement or crawl space. If the property sits too low relative to the surrounding terrain, you are looking at potential moisture and drainage issues that are not always obvious on a single visit. And remember, FEMA flood maps are updated. A property can be added or removed from a flood zone as maps change. Always look up the current status for the specific parcel, not just the general neighborhood. The better alternative, in almost every flood zone neighborhood in North Atlanta, there are properties nearby, sometimes literally on the same street, that sit just outside the SFHA designation. Similar character, similar location, no mandatory flood insurance. Now, being in the business for over 10 years and helping buyers buy homes as well as sellers, on the buyer side, I would say over 200 transactions. I've only seen, at least in Gwinnett County, 1 home, and it was located in Lawrenceville, that had flood insurance that was required. So, having said this, yes, it is a house type to be aware of, but in particular places like Gwinnett County, I rarely run into it. But it is different in Fulton County, as I've seen it happen on more than one occasion, because yes, there is the Chattahoochee River and other water banks. House type number 2, foundation issues from Georgia red clay. Let me tell you about something I have seen come up over and over again in transactions across the market. I had a buyer a while back who fell in love with a home in an established neighborhood in Gwinnett County. We went under contract. The inspection came back and flagged some horizontal cracking in the basement walls. We brought in a structural engineer, and the estimate to address the bowing walls and install a repair system came back at just over $18,000. Here's what is happening structurally underneath almost every home in North Metro Atlanta. Georgia's Piedmont clay, the dense red clay that defines this region, absorbs water and expands significantly when saturated. Then when summer arrives and the ground dries out, it contracts and pulls away. That constant push and pull puts pressure against foundation walls in ways that accumulate over time. Foundation repair in Atlanta ranges from around $4,000 for minor settling work to $15,000 for bowing basement walls addressed with carbon fiber or wall anchor systems, and all the way to from $15,000 to $30,000 or more for comprehensive structural repair involving multiple walls and significant settling. And if a structural concern gets flagged by your general inspector, FHA and VA loans may not close until the issue is documented and resolved. What do you look for on a walkthrough? Walk the exterior first. Look for stair-step cracks in brick mortar joints. That diagonal crack pattern is a classic indicator of foundation movement. Look for horizontal cracks in concrete block walls. Look for gaps where siding or trim has separated from the structure. Walk the perimeter and check whether the ground slopes toward the foundation rather than away from it. Inside, pay attention to the floors. If they feel uneven or spongy in sections, that is worth noting. In the basement, look for walls that appear to be bowing inward even slightly. In an inspection tip, a general home inspector will flag visible foundation concerns, but for any home in this market where you see even one of those signs, bring in a structural engineer or a foundation specialist for a dedicated second opinion. Get a specific repair estimate before you make any decision. And if prior foundation work has been done, ask for that documentation. Who did it, when, and is the warranty still transferable? The better alternative, you do not need to walk away from established neighborhoods. The best purchases in this category are homes where foundation work has been completed, documented, and warranted. Now, before we keep going, if you want a checklist you can actually take into your property viewings that covers all of these issues and more, I have put together a free Atlanta home buyer guide. It covers every one of these home types and gives you the specific questions to ask before you make an offer on any property in this market. Grab it for free from the link in the description below, and let's keep going because the next two are the ones that most often show up on listing photos looking perfectly fine. House type number 3, outdated electrical systems. Here's a scenario that plays out more often than most buyers realize. Picture a buyer and they are relocating from out of state. They go under contract on a home built in the 1960s in a great school district. And the price is right. The listing photos look good. They get to the inspection. The inspector opens the electrical panel and finds aluminum wiring throughout the home. It expands and contracts with temperature changes, loses its connection at outlet and switch terminals over time, and creates a genuine fire risk. The buyer's insurance company then asks for proof of updated electricals as a condition of issuing the binder. The binder does not come. The lender cannot close without the binder, and the closing date passes. That situation is not rare. Modernizing a full electrical system in an older Atlanta area home runs from $10,000 on the low end to $20,000 or more for a larger property. Beyond the direct repair costs, the insurance and financing complications are what cause deals to collapse, not just the wiring itself. So what do you look for in a walkthrough? Start at the electrical panel. A fuse box instead of a breaker panel is an immediate flag. Look at the outlets. Two-prong ungrounded outlets throughout the home signal a system that predates current code. Inspection tip, the general inspector will flag electrical concerns, but for any home from that era, bring in a licensed electrician for a full dedicated assessment. The better alternative, filter filter your search to homes with documented electrical upgrades, not just updated electrical in the listing description. A permitted update with a named contractor and a verifiable date. For FHA and VA buyers, this is not optional. It is a financing requirement. House type number 4, underfunded or poorly managed HOAs. Let me show you something that a lot of buyers in this market underestimate until it is too late. In Metro Atlanta, 53% of homes on the market include an HOA fee. That number is only going up. And for condo and townhome buyers specifically, the figure climbs even higher. 83.8% of condos for sale in 2024 came with HOA dues attached. Monthly fees in Atlanta metro condo and townhome communities commonly run from the low hundreds into the $300 to $500 range and beyond. The monthly fee is not the part that surprises buyers most though. The special assessment is. HOA fees in Greater Atlanta increased 12.2% from 2022 to 2024. Two main drivers: inflation pushing up labor and material costs, and reserves that were never adequately funded in the first place. Special assessments in condo communities can run thousands to tens of thousands of dollars per unit. There's also a financing layer to this, and not every condo complex in Atlanta is VA or FHA approved. If you're planning to use either loan type, the complex's approval status needs to be verified before you get emotionally invested in a specific unit. So what do you look for in a walkthrough? Walk the common areas with intention. If the landscaping is showing neglect, the lighting is non-functional, or there are visible maintenance issues that have been left unaddressed for a while, those are signals about how the board is managing things. Ask directly whether there are any current or pending special assessments. In an inspection tip, request the HOA financial statements and the reserve fund study before you move any contingencies. A reserve study tells you whether the HOA has set aside enough money to cover the major maintenance items it is responsible for. If the reserves are underfunded relative to the study's recommendations, a special assessment could come at any time. Also, you want to ask for the last 12 months of board meeting minutes. They will tell you exactly what the board has been discussing and what they have been avoiding. The better alternative: there are excellent condos and townhomes in North Metro Atlanta with well-funded reserves, transparent financials, and proactive management. And also, for buyers who want low-maintenance living but want to reduce HOA exposure, single-family homes with minimal HOAs or no HOA at all are worth adding to your search criteria. So let's stop here for a second. Everything I am covering in this video comes from real transactions and real situations, and I have worked through this in this market multiple times. So knowing which specific properties in Atlanta are worth the risk with the right documentation and which ones are not worth it at any price, that takes an actual conversation about your search. If you're planning to buy in North Metro Atlanta and you want to talk through what to look for before you make an offer, give me a call or send me a text on 770-906-0748. And if you prefer to book a time, there is a Calendly link in the description where you can grab a slot on my calendar. So 2 more to go, and these last 2 are the ones that I think catch buyers most off guard because they look the best on the surface. So house type number 5, deferred maintenance on older homes. Here's something I have learned from working with relocation buyers in this market, especially buyers coming from cities where older homes do not exist at this price point. Atlanta has established neighborhoods with beautiful homes where you can find a home that looks absolutely stunning on the listing photos. What those photos do not show is what has not been touched in 20 years. Windows is one of the biggest. In every home built before 1978, which covers a significant portion of Atlanta's established housing stock in neighborhoods that are popular with relocation buyers, has the potential for lead-based paint and asbestos, in floor tiles, in pipe wrap, in insulation. FHA and VA loans will not close on homes with known safety hazards until those hazards are remediated. So what do you look for on a walkthrough? Do not be fooled by cosmetic renovation. Fresh paint and new flooring over an unchanged mechanical system is one of the most common patterns in this market. Check the HVAC unit, look at the roof from the exterior, and check the attic for staining on the decking that signals prior leaks. Look at exposed pipes in the basement or utility area. Feel the windows. If the inspection raises any suggestion of lead paint or asbestos, request specific testing as a condition of your contingency. It can be done. Also, ask for permits for any major renovation work that has been represented in the listing or the disclosure. The better alternative, the best purchases in this category are homes where the major systems have already been replaced and documented. A home that is 20 years old with a 3-year-old roof, recently replaced HVAC, updated plumbing, and a clean lead paint test is a completely different risk proposition than one where nothing has been addressed. Now keep in mind though, if you do see a home that has that kind of updates, do be prepared because there are some areas where there is competition and buyers are looking for the same exact kind of updated property. Ask for the documentation up front, not at the inspection, and look at newer construction communities in the same school districts. They exist. Okay, so house type number 6, poor water management and drainage. This last one does not start with the home itself. It starts with the water that falls on top of it and then works its way in. Atlanta gets around 50 inches of rain per year, above the national average, and in North Georgia, that rain does not arrive gently. It comes in thunderstorms, multi-inch events in a single afternoon, hurricane remnants that track inland and dump enormous amounts of water across Cherokee, Forsyth, Gwinnett, and North Fulton in a matter of hours. All that water has to be managed by the roof, the gutters, the grading around the house, and if there is a basement or crawl space, the waterproofing system underneath. When that management system has not been properly maintained, the result is moisture intrusion, and moisture leads to mold. Mold remediation in Atlanta runs from about $1,500 to $4,500 for a standard project. Basement mold specifically, which is the most common scenario in North Atlanta homes, runs from $3,000 to $8,000. And here is the critical thing about mold. If you remediate it without fixing the moisture source, it comes back. Guaranteed. Studies suggest a 40% reinfestation rate when the underlying moisture issue is not resolved first. So let me show you what to look for. Right here on a basement wall, this is what you're looking for. A white crystalline crust forming on the surface of the concrete or block. That is efflorescence. It is left behind when water has moved through the wall and evaporated. If you walk into a basement or crawl space and it smells musty or damp, do not dismiss that. That odor is information. A dehumidifier running is not automatically a red flag. Most Atlanta basements should have one, but a dehumidifier working hard in a sealed, closed basement is worth a direct question. What do you look for in a walkthrough? Check the grading around the foundation perimeter. The ground should slope away from the house. A minimum of 6 inches drop over the first 10 feet per Georgia residential code if it slopes toward the foundation. Every rainstorm is directing water straight at the footings. Look at the gutters and downspouts. Check the crawl space if you have access. Inspection tip, confirm that the sump pump is functioning. Ask your inspector to pour water into the sump pit and confirm the pump activates. Look for interior perimeter drain tile systems in the basement and walk the exterior perimeter yourself. Drainage problems that are visible from outside are sometimes visible from inside. The better alternative? Modern homes built with waterproof foundations. Interior drainage systems and property engineered grade are the cleanest options. For older homes, look specifically for ones where the crawl space has been encapsulated, where the basement has an interior drainage system already installed and documented. When you find an older home where all of that is in place, water management drops off your risk list entirely, and that documentation becomes a selling point when you go to sell. So here is where we land across these 6 home types. We have talked about the flood insurance that can cost you close to $1,000 a year before you even move in. Foundation repairs that can reach $30,000 on Georgia red clay. Electrical issues that collapse deals at the insurance stage. HOA surprises that show up as a letter after closing. Deferred maintenance that can stack up to $50,000 behind a fresh coat of paint. And water damage that comes back every time it rains if the source is not fixed. Buying in this market without knowing what to look for is the most expensive way to do it. And when home prices are elevated and interest rates are elevated historically over the last 10-15 years, these things matter more than ever. You're spending your life savings probably on your biggest purchase ever, so it is important to be out looking for these things. Watch the next video where I walk you through the questions every buyer should be asking before they sign anything in North Metro Atlanta.